It began quietly in a lab, a place of supposed healing, twisted into a house of horrors. A virus engineered for good mutated into a nightmare. It was meant to cure, to protect. Instead, it corrupted, it destroyed. The first victims, the lab animals, the innocent test subjects. Their whimpers turned to snarls, their playful nips to vicious bites. Their eyes, once shining with life, became glazed over, reflecting a terrifying emptiness. The virus, a silent predator, had found its prey. Panic surged through the lab. Scientists, once confident and proud, scrambled for answers, for escape. But the virus was quicker. It seeped through the air vents, it clung to clothes, it spread like wildfire in a dry forest. The world outside, oblivious and unsuspecting, continued to spin. Unaware of the horror that was about to be unleashed, a horror that would change everything. The first sign was the barking, incessant, frantic, echoing through the night. Then silence, an unsettling, unnatural silence. The virus, insidious and silent, crept from house to house, from street to street. Dogs, once loyal companions, transformed into something monstrous. Their barks became guttural growls, their playful nips, savage bites. They roamed the streets, driven by a primal hunger, their eyes burning with a terrifying, unfamiliar light. The lucky ones never knew what hit them. A quick, merciless attack. For others, the horror unfolded slowly. The whimpers of a beloved pet, the scratching at the door, the agonizing decision to open it, only to be met with teeth and fury. Panic spread like a virus itself. Whispers turned to screams, fear replacing reason. The world, once familiar and safe, had become a breeding ground for terror. The first encounters were the hardest. To believe that the beloved family pet could turn into a monster was unbearable. Denial offered a temporary shield, but the truth soon revealed itself. The vacant eyes, the drool, the stench of decay. The realization hit like a physical blow. There was no reasoning with these creatures. Those who hesitated often paid the ultimate price. The infected were relentless, driven by a primal urge to spread the virus. Survival depended on accepting this horrifying new reality. Governments reacted too slowly. Lockdowns, hastily implemented, were often too late. Cities became traps. Streets transformed into battlegrounds. The virus, invisible and indiscriminate, tore through the fabric of society. Panic bred chaos. Supermarkets were ransacked, hospitals overwhelmed. The thin veneer of civilization, so easily stripped away, revealed the primal instincts lurking beneath. Trust evaporated, replaced by suspicion and fear. Neighbors turned on neighbors. Former friends became rivals for dwindling resources. The rule of law, already fragile, crumbled completely in the face of such widespread terror. The strong preyed on the weak, the desperate resorted to unthinkable acts. In the blink of an eye, the world as we knew it ceased to exist, replaced by a terrifying new reality where survival was the only law and trust a dangerous luxury. Section 5. The Fight for Survival. Weapons and tactics. Firearms, once a symbol of power, proved tragically ineffective. A single bite, a scratch, was all it took. And ammunition, finite and irreplaceable, quickly dwindled. Desperate times called for desperate measures. Axes, baseball bats, kitchen knives, anything that could inflict damage became a weapon. But brute force alone was not enough. The infected were relentless, tireless, driven by a primal hunger that knew no bounds. Cunning and strategy were paramount. Learning the infected's weaknesses, exploiting their limited senses, became essential for survival. Traps were set, distractions deployed, every encounter a heart-stopping dance with death. Knowledge, once taken for granted, transformed into a valuable commodity. Shared tactics, whispered warnings, and hard-won lessons became the currency of survival. In the darkest of times, humanity flickered. Acts of kindness, small but significant, offered glimmers of hope. A hand reaching out to pull a stranger to safety. A moment of shared grief. Communities shattered by fear slowly began to rebuild. Bonds forged in survival. People learned to rely on each other. Ordinary people rose to extraordinary circumstances. These acts of courage and compassion served as a beacon of hope. The human spirit could endure, but the virus did more than turn dogs into monsters. It exposed the monster within humanity itself. Fear, a powerful corruptor, poisoned minds. Trust, once a cornerstone of civilization, crumbled under the weight of suspicion. Rumor spread like wildfire, fueled by desperation and paranoia. Accusations flew, fingers pointed. Outsiders were ostracized, the sick shunned. The infected were not the only threat. Groups splintered, driven apart by fear and mistrust. Resources, already scarce, became bargaining chips. Weapons in a new kind of war. A war not against the infected, but against each other. The very bonds that had held communities together, that had offered hope in the darkest of hours, were strained to their breaking point. The virus, it seemed, had infected more than just our canine companions. It had infected our humanity as well. In hidden pockets of the shattered world, hope flickered. Scientists, working tirelessly in makeshift labs, dedicated themselves to finding a cure, driven by the memory of a world lost, fueled by the faintest glimmer of hope. Every failed experiment, every dead end was a blow, but they pressed on, fueled by a shared determination to reclaim their world. The virus, they knew, held the key to its own destruction. Somewhere, hidden within its twisted structure, lay the answer. Progress was painstakingly slow. Resources were scarce, communication lines unreliable, yet they clung to the belief that somewhere in the vastness of scientific knowledge, a solution existed. The weight of the world rested on their shoulders. The fate of humanity, the hope for a future free from the terror, depended on their success. The outbreak eventually subsided. The tide of infected receded, but the world, forever scarred, would never be the same. Cities lay in ruins, monuments to a bygone era. The air, once filled with laughter, was now heavy with the silence of the dead. The lucky ones, those who'd survived, bore the invisible scars of trauma. The bond between humans and their canine companions, once unbreakable, was shattered. The fear, the distrust lingered. Yet from the ashes of destruction, life found a way. Survivors began the arduous task of rebuilding. The world they created would be different, shaped by the lessons learned.